Hey everyone, welcome to the legendary galaxy. My name's Mitch, and on today's episode, we're going to make a Holo table, or a Dejarik table? Is that how you say it? So to start off the project, I did some research and found the Dejarik Builders group on Facebook. And there they had the 3D files and all kinds of great information to build it, to make the base, all of it. And so if you want to build this, that's where I think you should start. So I started 3D printing all the edges of the tabletop, and it was way over 400 hours of printing with all the knobs and the keys. So I had a few issues of banding, like it was too cold in my basement while I was printing, and there's a little separation, but I thought I could fix it. So I put letters on them so I would get them not confused. And then I super glued wood dowels into it. The spaces were there. Then I used this accelerator so it would instantly go together. And I just continued until I had made the full tabletop. And now I'm using a tool I've never used before. It's a plastic welder and it has a little wire on it. And I just wanted to make sure the table stayed together. You heat it up and let it sit for a minute, and then you pull it off and the wire just stays in there, and then you can break off the wires or snip off the wires after. And so I think this helped in some of these thinner spots to keep the table all together. Once the top was all together, I traced the inside of it onto a scrap piece of wood I had. Then I just cut that out with a skill saw. So now I'm centering a metal end table I got on Amazon. There's the height that I wanted, and then just tracing the edge of the table with a marker so I can make it easier to line up. And then the top of the table is metal, so I'm just pre-drilling some holes on here. And then I use some metal screws. So I'm using some epoxy to adhere the table to the wood, and I'm just kind of glooping it to the outer edges to get as much adhesion as I can. And then just setting it right into the epoxy. And it was 15-minute dry time epoxy just to give me a little time to be able to set that. Now I'm doing something I've never tried before, but I've seen a lot on TikTok, is using Bondo with acetone to get rid of layer lines and seam lines. The Bondo I bought had some hardener in it, so it wasn't quite the same as I was expecting, but I decided to try it anyway. I'm just covering all the layer lines, and especially doing the parts that had a little banding on it. So I ran out of this Bondo and I went and bought the kind that I thought I'd bought in the first place. This kind doesn't need hardener, and so now I'm just continuing to go over different areas on the print to try and smooth it out. And once it's dry for a while, I came in and sanded it with the hand sander first. Then lots and lots and lots of hand sanding. Lots. And then I sprayed it with filler primer, and that helped me to see the parts that still needed to be smoothed out. And more sanding. And then once that was finished, I spray painted the whole thing with silver spray paint. And these are the keys that go around the edges. I had to individually glue each key onto the tray. Then after spraying the keys with primer and silver paint, I decided to hand paint each key. On the Builders group, it has a template where you have all the keys, and you could make labels out of them, but I decided to go with hand painting. And you know, it took a while. I used a paint pen to start the symbols, but I had to do a lot of touch up with just a regular brush. So there are 27 keys on each side, so 27 black and 27 white that needed symbols on it. And then I glued each of the key sections into place. And then I did something that I had little experience doing, is programmable LEDs. And I used this chip, I'll have the link below, and there's a group called the WLED, and it was really great and helpful. And they have an app that you can change colors, address individual lights, and it was really user-friendly. So I 3D printed this little tube that goes on these discs of red and blue acrylic, and then I just super glued them on with a toothpick. And then they just push onto the lights I have. And then those push into the table and they fit really tight. And then the lights just went into the back of them, and it was pretty awesome actually. So now that I've got the lights all put in and I'm really happy where that is right now, it's time to do the top of the table. And that's where this comes in. This is a 24-inch round aluminum circle, and all I need to do is spray paint the pattern on here, and I'm just going to use some paper that I cut out with a laser cutter for a mask on it. So I just started with sanding down the top of the aluminum, and it was pretty dirty, so I cleaned it off with some alcohol. So these are the paper cut out, and I just sprayed a little adhesive on and then stuck them to the aluminum. And then I'm just coming in with some toothpaste. This is my favorite technique. Paint doesn't really stick to the toothpaste, so it gives it a worn look. And then I just spray paint it black. It came out just how I wanted, and now I'm just finishing off with putting scratches with silver paint. And now I'm just weathering it, making it a little dirty and grungy, making it look like it was in Star Wars. And once you do that, it starts to look really like it came from the Star Wars universe. And a little weathering will also help hide some of the flaws in making the table. And I came up with the idea to have a blue milk stain on my table, so I just got a cup and sat it right down on the table and left it for a minute and then picked it up, and yeah, I like how it came out. And here's a pan of the table all weathered and scratched up. So this was probably the most complicated part of the whole build, is putting these stripes on the side of the table. And I used this permanent marker and this template to kind of give me guides for this tape. And I used to be pretty decent at this when I was younger because my dad was in the newspaper business, but because it's on a round table, it was very hard to get it straight and make it not look wobbly. But I think I came through in the end, and then I just scratched it a little with silver paint. And now the final step to this project is putting some pieces on, and I have this really awesome set of Dejarik pieces from Galaxy's Edge. And these are the ones I recognize the most from A New Hope. And there are 8 of them, but I only wanted 4, so it still gives me room on the table to set beverages. Thanks so much for joining me on this project. I hope it inspires you to make a holo table or something else cool. Be sure to like this video and subscribe, and I'll see you next time on the Legendary Galaxy.